made a video a couple of days ago that was just on the importance of smiling in social situations for being funnier and more confident, just because it makes you feel better so you can be funnier. You'll honestly just feel more creative as you're going through whatever conversation. And the other thing is you'll make the other person feel better by smiling yourself. If you know this, if you've ever seen someone smiling as you're walking down the street, or maybe you're buying a coffee and the cashier smiles at you. When someone smiles at you, you want to smile yourself, right? There's almost like an energy transfer that makes you feel better. And we can do that for other people. And someone commented on this video, so it is, smile and swallow. And that's definitely not what I was trying to communicate, that you should be like a pushover or anything like that. So this video is just a response to that comment. They probably won't see it, but hopefully you can find some value in this. There's two main things that I think you lose when you're kind of a little bit more of a pushover, in the sense that you're trying to change yourself for other people. The first one is authenticity. This is pretty simple. If you're trying to change yourself for them, you're not living for yourself. You're not really living an authentic life in that sense. And therefore, let's say they like you, they don't actually like you. They like the version of you you're presenting to them. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. I think it does make a lot of sense to change you for you, right? So you can be someone you like, but I don't think you should change yourself for other people. And if you're not really living with them authentically, in the sense that you're being yourself, we'll talk about this definition of character later, but you're not living with character, then you can't really be present with them either. And that's the second thing, which is, and here's a personal story on this. Before I started being a little more authentic and living authentically with myself, this was when I was younger, but I couldn't make eye contact at all. I'd be talking like this with people and I couldn't. And I think by living more authentically with other people in social situations, you have a lot more presence in the sense of making eye contact, things like that. You feel a lot better about yourself in that situation. And other people can definitely sense if you're present with them or not. Just think back to when you had a conversation and somebody wasn't present with you. You could sense it, right? Maybe they were looking off to the side a little bit. Maybe their shoulders were hunched more inward or something, and you could kind of tell they weren't really with you. Or this is an extreme example, but maybe they were like on their phone playing games while you were trying to talk with them. So you really need to you need to be authentic to have presence and really connect with people. Now, how do we do this? I think it's really important for this to have strong characters. And the best definition of character I've ever read was in a book written in 1944 called Psychology and the Soldier. And it was trying to take lessons of leadership and morale among troops from World War II with the Allied armies. And the definition it gave was that a man with character knows what he wants and he goes out and does it. So a man with character knows what he wants and goes out and does it. Now, this is an excuse to be rude or a jerk and, like push people around. I think something we should want is to be kind and generous, but it does mean we need to figure out what we want. We're going to talk about that, and we need to go out and do it. For figuring out what we want, we can look at this in kind of two major ways, in the sense of just what do we want? So maybe we look at what our ideal life would be, who we want to be for ourselves. It's probably similar for you as it is for me. For me, I want to be a guy who's disciplined, who can actually get stuff done, who's true to his word, honest, is able to live fully with others, and is ideally happy and healthy, right? So what's that lifestyle we want, right? That's what we want, and then just take action to go do that. The other way to look at it is through the lens of purpose. So we can look at this instead, not as what's our ideal lifestyle, but just living with purpose throughout our life. Purpose is a little bit more of a wishy-washy, hard to find topic, I think, in many ways. You've probably seen online and stuff like men need to live with purpose, but you've probably had the same problem as me, which is you can't really figure out what your purpose is. And I think the big issue why we can't do that is because we have so many distractions, right? You're watching TV, social media, you're watching this video right now where I'm telling you my thoughts and influencing your behavior. So the first step you can really do is just take a step back from distractions and try to even do stuff like meditation where new thoughts will come up. For me, every once in a while, I like writing like poetry and stuff. Maybe I'll post a few things to this channel. But for the life of me, I cannot think of poetry things until I go out on a walk. And when I go out on a walk, zero music, zero distractions, I'll leave my phone at home, then all of a sudden ideas just start flowing to me. I'll be on a walk and all of a sudden, just like boom, I've got ideas. So by just taking a step back from distractions, we can get some new ideas and kind of figure out maybe a little more of our purpose. One thing to keep in mind is that your purpose might not be what you think it is, and what you want also might not be what you think it is. So when we look at what we want, often you'll say money, right? That's a big one that comes up. But I think in a way that's kind of almost a shallow thing in the sense that, well, let me continue with that, but in the sense that it's money. But what do we actually want? And we kind of need to look deeper at our desires. So maybe you want money and romantic relationship, right? Like a girlfriend. What do we actually want in that? So money, maybe we want status, maybe we want freedom, right? Those are things that somewhat come with money, but maybe we can address those issues a little more by dealing with those directly. So status and freedom, maybe making money is a good part in that, but maybe we can also just be more present with those in our lives and give more to some of the people around us to get status. And for freedom, money is a big part in that, but you don't actually need that much money to have freedom. So we can look at some of those things, and being money hungry isn't really freedom. We need to make freedom that goal if that's what we're really desiring money for. We need to make enough money to be free, for example, but we don't want to make money our sole objective. Those aren't purposes, but maybe they have underlying purposes that are what we're going for. One of the things that makes this really hard is that it takes time, and you really just have to, from the things I've seen in my own personal experience, you just have to wait. So it just takes time, and you just kind of have to wait, and you also kind of have to make yourself open to receive whatever guidance you need, in the sense of not necessarily like some mystical thing putting ideas into your head, but just in the sense of taking a step back from distractions so that you can finally start thinking for yourself, and ideas will just come up naturally. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is from the book The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida, is that purpose can sometimes kind of be like an onion. He describes it as circles, but I think an onion's kind of more fun, where you've got a core purpose, and that's what you need to live your life for. Other things are around your core purpose. That's how you find presence and authenticity. But to get to that core purpose, you need to sort of dissolve and fulfill the shallower layers around that core purpose, the layers of kind of your onion. So maybe your core purpose, an example he gives in the book is meditation to find like God and or like spiritual awakening. But to get to that core purpose, you have to go through like making money at work. There's shallower purposes that get to your core purpose. That doesn't mean you can't make money, but it does mean that you have to keep that core purpose as the reason you're taking these actions. I mentioned earlier as well, I think it's a great thing to change ourselves. One of the books I read was Winning with People by John C. Maxwell. That's what the book was. And it literally had a line which was, just be yourself is the worst advice for some people, because sometimes we're really negative, right? But I do think it's really important to change ourselves for ourselves and not for others. If we're changing ourselves for others all the time, then we're not living authentically and with presence. And we're also bending. The way of the superior man kind of describes in this way, which I thought made a lot of sense. We're kind of bending with events instead of creating events ourselves, right? And we want to be creating events. We want to be in control of our lives. So by all means, change yourself in the sense of working out, good habits, reading, exercising. I already mentioned working out, but you get the idea. By all means, change yourself in reading, exercising, so you feel better about yourself and you can also interact better with other people. But don't make the sole purpose why you're changing yourself for other people, right? And the last point that I wanted to touch on is that just kind of the idea of neediness. If you're living with purpose and you're focusing on changing yourself for you, right? We want to be someone you like and someone who can do what you want, what your purpose is, right? For me, I was super socially awkward as I was growing up. So I read a lot of books on how not to be as socially awkward, and I took action to actually, interact with people more and learn from those interactions. I started working out so that I feel healthier and I look a little better. But I did that for myself because those are goals that I want to accomplish, not purely for other people. Now, you might be saying, I know this is a little late in the video to touch on this. You might be saying, well, I already do things for myself. But I think there also is some real truth in the sense that we do things for other people a lot of the time. So even if you do things for other people, recognize that and be honest with yourself. And try to do things for yourself, but sometimes, doing things for other people makes a little bit of sense. But you do have to be honest with yourself with that. So don't, like going to the gym, for example, there is a part of me that just wants to do it because I'll be more attractive and hopefully that'll make me look better for other people, right? And, that's something that I'm doing for other people in a sense. There also is a large part of me that's doing for myself, which I think is really good and I'm really happy with. But I do have to also recognize and be honest with myself if I'm doing that for other people. And maybe that's something I want to cut out, or maybe that's something I leave in my life. But you have to, at the very least, be honest with yourself and think of everything at the basis of, is this bringing me closer or further away from my core purpose? If you're interested in looking into this stuff a little bit more, I'm going to have a link down below to my website, disciplinepath.com. And it's going to have, there's a newsletter on there. And I'm also going to be releasing through that newsletter soon, or maybe I'll make it a separate link, a book list. So books that I've read on all these things that we want to accomplish. Social confidence and social skills, so we can do better in those situations and also make other people feel better. Exercise, etc. There'll be a whole list of books that I'm going to put in there. And I'm also releasing a course which is on just building social confidence and overcoming loneliness, which is called Building Bonds. Right now, it's honestly not where I want it to be quality-wise, so I've got it on a discount, but I will be continuously updating it, and in the next 1 or 2 days, I'm going to basically redo the entire course so that it's at a much higher quality level, and then I'll be updating it as I go in my own journey so that you guys get the best information as you go in your journey.